Yesterday we got to see a really awesome match to end round number 9. We saw a lot of good matches, for being honest, yesterday, but I think the best match of the day was round 9 yesterday. You want to go back and check that VOD. Fournier versus D Rude was very good. And today we are starting off with another banger here with Liam Kane on your right playing Is It Prowess versus Linden Koot. I hope I said that correctly, on Azorius Omniscience on your left.
Yeah, so this is one of the defining matchups of this standard format. It's a matchup we saw between Fournier and Diru to end day one yesterday, and it's a matchup we're going to be seeing a lot of today, probably through the top 8 as well. I mean, these are two of the defining deaths of this format. Certainly, Is It Prowess still the ultimate limits test, still yet to be dethroned as the best deck, and then Omni is one of the few other contenders nipping at its heels constantly.
Yeah, and this is a matchup that, I think we're going to expect to see more and more. We saw it twice yesterday, once early and once as the last round of a feature. But these, like you just said, these are kind of like A and B when it comes to the form, I think, for a lot of players when it comes to the best deck. And I think a lot of people who don't play Prowess are playing a deck like Omni if they're kind of, not willing to go super far off the deep end and build a deck.
Yeah, so our players here, Linden Koot, one of BC's finest, looking to represent the West Coast here on the big stage. And then Liam Kane, someone who has been a fixture of the Pro Tour since its return in paper, just scrapping his way back on how through whatever means he can find, whether it's the Sunday PTQ for the people who didn't make it deep, whether it's the RCs. He's been an absolute crusher on the Canadian RC circuit. And now he's been doing that enough that he's kind of clawing his way there just through sheer continuity. He's shown a impressive level of consistency, and 8-1 overnight at this RC. No surprise to anyone if you know Liam and know his antics.
Yeah. Very sharp, very tight player. And you're seeing Liam here actually start to turn off with a sleight of hand, figuring out how he wants to exactly do his turn and set up here. And this Drake Hatcher is growing quite large during all this, with some prowess triggers going off.
Yeah, this is a matchup where, in theory, you sacrifice the most from having Drake Hatcher over some of the other options like Sexual Show Off or this more aggressive focus. But as you're seeing here, Drake Hatcher still gets very large, very in charge, and backed up by stuff like Monstrous Rage, can still deal a lot of damage and put Omniscience to the test.
Yeah. And we're seeing, 4 counters get added here from all the prowess triggers and the monstrous rage roll trampling over, which means Liam can make a Drake whenever Liam would like.
Now you can make all the Drakes you want. All of that will still be swept up by temporary lockdown. You're one of the best defensive tools, really, for any slower deck in the standard format. One of the few things that can actually break serve against Prowess, and one of the main selling points of the Omniscience deck is you are a combo deck that almost naturally wants to play the full set of lockdowns anyway.
Right. Island for turn. Looks like it is going to be that temporary lockdown, relieving the pressure for Linden here.
So that's a great start, but that is step one to staying alive and staying in the game. You actually need to have the right follow up, and for the Omniscience deck, that means getting all your ducks in a row, assembling this two and a half, 3 card combo. So Linden is off to a good start, but he's not out of the woods yet, and Liam is trying to rebuild, apply this second wave of pressure here with Swift Spirit into sleight of hand. Would love to find, something like Stock Up, Corey Still Cutter. Stormtager's talent is no slouch either, though.
Yeah. Liam does have 1 spell pierce in the main this weekend. Obviously, there's no omniscience yet in the graveyard to stop the Abuelos, but it is something that Linden needs to be thinking about when playing out the turn, thinking about exactly what we're going to sequence here, as Liam has done a good amount of cantrip with these 3 sleight of hands.
Yeah, during that decklist review period, different archetypes will be looking for different things, right? If you're the Omniscience deck, you see you're against Prowess, yet again, probably. The first thing you do is your eyes jump to those instants, and you see how many copies of Spell Pierce are in the main deck. And one of the reasons to play Omni right now is you don't see a ton of Spell Pierces in the main deck, or sometimes not even at all. So, Liam has the one. We'll see if he can find that before too long. But you can jam without too much fear, at least in the pre-board games.
All right, so the archaeologists come down milled over 3, and then picked up Stroke of Midnight. That's going to destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 1/1 white human creature token. So just a nice little removal spell.
Yeah, it's a good proof of the maxim that you get what you pay for, right? Like if you want versatility, well, and you want to add a reasonable price, well, you're gonna have to give them something back. It's not an actual Bloomburrow card, but it feels like you're gifting them a fish, right?
Yeah, the Progenitus fish card. Liam attacking with both after thinking for a second. Linden blocks, decides to fetch the table package, gets an island. A little shaking of the head there from Liam. So both players are chit-chatting back and forth with each other. One of the more fun parts.
Liam has a fun table presence where, regardless of whether he's hopelessly ahead or hopelessly behind, he'll still have his head in his hands, looking like the world is crashing down around him.
That's tough. Nobody has it tougher. As it does look like we have double land here for Linden. Gonna put those into the graveyard. It looks like we're gonna pass priority. Liam gonna level up the talent post combat. Curious if it's sleight of hand or rage. It is monstrous rage going to hand.
Yeah,
It's
so
landed
that
it.
is a sign of weakness in one sense, right? But yeah, the thing about Omni is you kind of know if you could be dead on this end based on is he in the graveyard already? Well, in this case, no. So the coast is kind of clear in that sense. So Liam would rather be spending his turn doing other things, but he can spend this turn doing this thing and know he'll probably get another turn to hopefully figure out something to do.
All right, so Linden played into the Dragonstorm, or on Dragonstorm, excuse me. And then drew 2 cards, drew a stock up, didn't play it. Decided to hold up the mana here. Dom, I'm so tempted to play that stock up there.
It's you feel the siren's call of the stock up, right? It's so alluring. It's so much value, but you gotta be disciplined.
All right. Corey Steelcutter comes down. Torch the Tower's going to bargain getting rid of our Storm Chasers talent to take down the Archaeologist. That's going to trigger Corey. Get a Scry.
Against against some of the builds we've seen this weekend, you'd have to be deathly afraid of scroll shift in this exact spot, right? Just saving the Falaji, drawing a card, getting another Falaji trigger. Not really the case here. So that exchange will go through at the very least.
Yeah, and I think that's, maybe part of the reason why we've seen such success in scroll shift builds is not only is it powerful, it's also really taxing to play against, right? Maybe, we saw this earlier in the day where a player plays around a card maybe a little too hard, right? And then that player didn't end up getting punished in that spot, but you can very easily imagine, one draw step difference there, and suddenly the game is over. Linden thinking about if I want to do something before combat. Remember, we do have Stroke of Midnight in hand. We're counting our prowess C. Nature 5 damage should be coming across here. Abuelo's in hand for Linden. I wonder if he's thinking about blowing up his own lockdown and then Abuelo's in it.
Ooh, okay. I like how your head is at, Mason.
Yeah. The
I'm not
doctor's
saying I would necessarily do it, but
yeah.
I love the vision.
Listen, one thing I'm willing to think about every play, Now that sometimes means some heinous plays come out of my mouth, sure, but I'm willing to think about it, Dom. As we are just going to blow Corey Steelcutter, much less fancy, but still good. As Azorius Omniscience has drawn the namesake card in Omniscience, but no way to discard it with Abuelo's in hand. And facing down 3 creatures now. Now, of course, one of those is just a blank 1/1. And we are going to stock on up as we found, I think, a temporary lockdown in the mix. Along with a land, Dom. Yeah, it looks like we're tanking. Looks like we have pulled up a surveil land near the front along with Afara's. So we have a little bit of a way to interact here. There will be some dispersing going on. Bidding the archaeologist. And we have this interact. Oh, and their stock up huge for Liam. So I said we have this one piece of interaction, but we do need to actually kill in the next turn. Liam's stock up starts with 3 lands, ends with a stock up and a Corey Steelcutter.
Yeah, depending on what's the first card and what's the fifth card, you can go on this real emotional roller coaster just by resolving a star card, right?
It's truly a high emotion card every time you play it. It's either I'm on top of the
Now,
world or I'm so unlucky.
are you someone who likes to look at everything at once, or do you like to slow yourself for maximum suspense one way or another? Perhaps maximum emotional,
Uh,
damage or jubilation too.
I want the dopamine overload all 5 at once, Boom, 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 boom. And it looks like we went for the double spell. I do really appreciate Liam taking a second there to double check, do I want one of these lands? Corey Steelcutter coming down.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
see with some of the slower stock up decks, right? Like the control decks and even the omniscience deck. Like sometimes turn 7, turn 8, you've hit all your land drops, you cast a stock up. One of the things you most want to see is just another land, so you can actually double spell the way you want to. But yeah, Leah making really big attack here, and
This is
Linden already at a personally low life total.
Yeah, no, this is lethal. Yeah, I mean, both prowess creatures are 4/4s, and then you monster rage the other
Yeah,
guy. That's a 4, and yeah, Linden had a piece of spot removal, but needed more. And unfortunately, this is one of the awkward parts of the omniscience deck is you can draw the namesake cards, but if you had to use one of your discard effects to find the Azorius omniscience, if it hits your hand, it can be sometimes very, very bad.
yeah. We saw Linden kind of kept up with Liam's draw, right? Had the early lockdown. Liam didn't really have an impressive second wave right away, but Linden was just kind of spinning his tires a bit, couldn't get anything going. And game one, at least for the Omniscience deck, you only have one thing to get going, and it takes a lot of setup, and it just didn't all come together. So Liam had time to rebuild, rose to the challenge, and is a game up now in our feature match.
Yeah, and has some really good ones in the sideboard. I mean, 3 slick shot show off has to be for matchups like this, right?
Yeah, it is for any matchup where you care about racing. Where if you're playing mirrors all day, then you want all the Drake catches you can get. If you're playing against domain and omniscience and control decks, then that's where the show-offs really shine. So that's a straightforward swap there. But we actually saw early on, right? Most of the Paris decks started their show-offs, and then as people discovered Drake Catcher, that card started creeping into sideboards and then into main decks. And Slickshot was kind of pushed to the side. But seeing what ratio of each of those people have chosen to bring is always fun to check out. And then you have Ghost Vacuum, which we've seen some Omniscience lists pivot away from the combo and from the graveyard to some extent in the post-war games. When we look at Linden's list, we'll see how feasible that might be for him. But in the dark, you're definitely going to bring in that Ghost Vacuum. And in worst case, Mason, it's a one-mana spell to trigger Paris, and you can't really ask for too much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, that is honestly just a fine fail case. As long as you're not getting completely and utterly destroyed by the backup plan, right? That sort of fair game plan that sometimes does pop up in these matchups. That's okay. You can get away with that. Meanwhile, speaking of the Azorius Omniscience getting away with something, let's see what they're trying to get away with in the sideboard here. All
Yeah,
right,
so
so
nothing too out of line for Linden, it looks like.
yeah, it's looking very, stock and true. We got a bunch of Bezas, we got a Boonbreaker Valkyrie, we got a couple pieces of spice with Soul Partition and things like that. But for the most part, it looks like we're going to see a lot of what we've seen in the previous rounds. A lot of, I'm going to be some amount of bad blue-white control plus combo deck.
Yeah, if anything, the main deck is where Linden is getting a little cheeky with. He's got his scroll ships of his own. Main deck Hootsel's flanker, and that stroke of midnight we saw. Like that's where the spice is. If on this deck list, and then the sideboard is. I'm not going to say it's boring, Mason, but it's. I mean, we've seen it all before.
Yeah, there's not not too much here. I will say is I like the idea of like console flanker in the main, right? Like it seems like a pretty fine card, something that gives you probably a pretty big edge in the mirrors. Like just having a main deck graveyard hate card there seems kind of nice. I don't know. I don't know if I'd give up stock up for it, but I do like the idea.
Yeah, I mean, Stock Up is one of the cards whose printing revived this deck and took it from, a deck you'd maybe heard murmurs about on the fringes during the RCQ season or something, and transformed it into one of the best decks in the format that has kept up with all of the twists and turns since then.
Yep. The card is very strong. All right, our players going back to the future match area here. Oh my goodness, Linden's Decklist has been destroyed over the day. He must have had some tough battles.
Whereas Liam's is unruffled, immaculate, a nice fresh fit. The vibes are good.
Yeah, Liam just curved out all day. Meanwhile, Linden out here scrapping a stroke of midnight, you know?
We need to get that deck list to the ER or something. It's not looking good, Mason. I don't know if it's going to make it through the entire day.
It's tough. And it needs to too, as both these players are very live for top 8. 8-1 is, far from out. I believe top 12 get Pro Tour invites. Is that correct, Dom?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Look. If Linden goes a distance, gets a top 8, we'll fire out the printer, get him a replacement. It'll be fine.
Nah, you gotta stick with that. That's a ride or die moment.
Yeah, I still have not all of my printed RC deck lists, but certainly the RCs I did well at. Those are in the box of nostalgic trinkets and so on.
Mm, I like that. I think I have my Phoenix one from the first RC, but I actually don't remember. It was a busy point in my life. I should check that out later. That would be a cool thing to keep around. All right, as it looks like Liam is done. He's sideboarded. He's ready to play. Another Azorius person who thinks they have a good matchup versus me. Bring it.
Yeah, I wonder if polled, what percentage of people who aren't on Prowess in the room would say they have a good matchup against Prowess?
Yeah.
It's always the eternal question with the best deck, right?
hmm Also, we need to define what good is. In my mind, Dom, when you say good, I'm thinking 55% plus is what they're thinking. You know what I mean? Like you got a little bit of a lead. It's not like insane, but you're happy to see the matchup or happy enough to see the matchup.
Yeah, is it? I think the matchup's great. Give me as much as you can throw at me all day long, or is it? Yeah, okay. Honestly, it's probably not that good, but it's good enough that I could convince myself to play this other deck instead. Because I think that's where most people's heads are going to be at.
Yeah. As mulliganing underway, Liam with a lot of prowess creatures in that hand. I saw 2 Swift Spears and a Slick Shot show off.
Linden going quickly back to 6.
All right, Dom, while we're shuffling here, what is the name in Canadian Magic that not enough people know?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here.
I'm putting you on the spot. You have until we're done shuffling.
It's funny, right? Because there's an answer to that among Canadians who maybe they know vaguely who people are, but there's certain names that should be better known. And then there's the public at large, where it's kind of hard for me in my Canadian bubble to know how
Mhm,
much certain people are perceived. I mean, honestly, Liam Kane on the right, he is one of those names,
mhm.
and he's reasonably well known, I think. But certainly, he lives in infamy, or maybe just fame among Canadians. But I don't know how much that has like percolated into the mainstream.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good answer. London mulliganing down to 5.
But honestly,
Any
a lot of as I think about it more, a lot of the other candidates for that title doing pretty well in this tournament. We've seen some of them on camera yesterday. Gonna likely see some more of them today. So yeah, likely a lot of them will be better known. To certainly to the people watching at home here on Twitch, and we're thankful for all of you after this weekend.
right, the start of some legends here then, as we're on 5. How's the province, ego checks going on? That used to be a big part of
Mm.
Canadian Magic Twitter was, which province is at top. I haven't seen it in a while. Have we
Oh,
come to terms with each other?
it still is, but it used to be too.
Oh,
So
sure. Okay.
that's really my role on the broadcast is to give you an update on the provincial bragging rights and power rankings as the results stack up.
Mhm. Listen, people got mad at me yesterday for bringing up, gambling laws from different countries, so I'm just trying to relate, you know?
Yeah,
As we
I'm still not sure how we arrived metaphorically at Germany, but let's see if that happens
you
again.
you said it, not me. As we feel like the archaeologists were gonna get a counter. I'm getting blasted in chat by Doms, and it's crazy that we got confused because our voices, I'm gonna say it, we don't sound that similar as a mountainous drama double slick shot show off hand here for Liam.
I remember in a commentary role, our mutual friend Emma Partlow was on the roster. They were trying to figure out, okay, who's going to get paired with who and how are we going to schedule all of this. And there was a concern that, well, can we put two British accents together? Because what if they sound too similar? And we both had to reassure them that no, that's not going to be a problem. Don't worry about it. If anything, probably they can tell us apart better than any two other people on the show. So same goes with Canadians, honestly. I mean, that's a nice province versus province thing, right? Like, I don't think we have many newfies in the RC this weekend. One or two, perhaps. Caleb Yetman being name dropped in the chat. But yeah, depending on who you got and from where you got them, you can get some nice variation there too.
And speaking of got him, Liam got double Swift Spear on turn number 2 and attacks in here, gets 2 across from a little bumping of heads. Yeah, I gotta say, Dom, if this is a safe space, when I watch Doctor Who, it's just so hard. There's so many British people. I'm like, who's talking? So I'm glad that other people thought about that.
Well, hey, the nice thing about that, Mason, is if there's one accent you find hard to understand, they'll be the 18th Doctor, the 19th Doctor. They change the cast around pretty frequently, so you
Yeah,
only have to wait so long.
yeah. As we do see temporary lockdown come on in, picking up the triple Swift Spear, and Linden has to think, well, that's going to be the end of the aggression, but there's still 2 slick shot show offs in hand for Liam.
Yeah, and that triple Swift Spear start, it's not easy to kill on turn 3 in standard, or really anywhere, honestly. But the triple Swift Spear start, that can lead to it, right? You start with Monstrous Rage into something else. So there's a chance if Linden didn't have lockdown, he was just dead on the spot. And he's still in a pretty difficult situation anyway, right? Like, Liam just rebuilt effortlessly with Sexual into Storm Tracer's talent and picks up a Spell Pierce for the turn. So still playing offense and now playing defense too.
Yeah, and a very interesting question here too, right? Of do I plot this slick shot to maybe play around temporary lockdown, or do I play it here to get this extra damage along with this Ghost Vacuum and attack here? 4/5. Afaris is going to get rid of the auto. We're going to get some surveilling going on. That was a scroll shift in the land. Scroll shift goes back on top. Slick shot hits in for 3. And we're going to plot another slick shot show off and pass the turn.
Yeah, and with the Ghost Vacuum, Liam doesn't even need to keep up that Spell Pierce, right? I mean, Linden has to be thinking, what's that last card in Liam's hand? What can I beat, depending on what it is? Spell Pierce is going to be hard to beat for, most routes Linden could take back into this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we supposed to scroll shift right now and just clean everything up while we're tapped out? Or
I think so, honestly. Yeah, I mean, you've seen so many haste creatures that it's kind of hard for Liam to have even more, right?
Yeah.
And Liam doesn't have a ton of cards that would punish you for waiting, but he sure does have one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's just so hard with the plotted slick shot, right? It's just like, well, if I do this and then, he deplots a slick shot, I just die or whatever. But it's going to be a tough game to navigate, I think, from here, as Liam's going to deplot
Yeah.
slick off.
And I think I do like waiting because the Slick Shot by itself, even if that's your only prowess threat, that represents lethal over the course of a few turns. So I like trying to catch it all. It turns out Liam has it all though, and yeah, I think gonna very swiftly take this round 10. Like, oh, that's 1 mana untapped. Interesting. Here's Spell Pierce.
Yeah.
And that's 4 extra damage. I had enough already, but here we go.
And here's Afaris
Ooh.
on the one with the Monstrous Rage. So we are going to deal 5 damage with the slick shot show off that was not buffed up. That's going to put Linden to 7. We bend 2 cards. Land. And
So
now
Linden has exactly what he needs to survive the turn, but where do we go from here? Like, even if he draws exactly lockdown, well, is he in a good spot now? Like, it's tough, right?
Yeah, I think Beza had to be the start of it all, right? Like, get some life, get a card, and then hope that Liam draws a land, and then all he does is level up his talent.
Yeah, that's the squeeze that the power stack puts you in sometimes, where you get into these spots mid game where, okay, I can't really beat a spell, so I need them to draw a land, but if they draw a land, they can just level their talent. So it has to be Spire Bluff Canal? Turns out it's not, though. It's another Monstrous Rage. And yeah, Liam, in a convincing steamroll there, moves on to 9-1, in very good shape to make yet another RC top 8. He can't keep getting away with it, folks, and yet it appears he can.